So, if I told you to build a world-class university completely from scratch, but I gave you, $0, no land, and absolutely no building materials,
Right. Literally nothing.
literally nothing, how long would it take you to just, quit? I mean, 5 minutes, maybe an hour if you're stubborn.
Yeah, probably about 5 minutes for me.
Right. But, when Booker T. Washington was handed that exact, like, seemingly impossible scenario, he didn't quit at all. He looked at the dirt beneath his feet, turned to his students, and he taught them how to physically bake their own bricks right out of the earth.
Which is, I mean, it is the absolute ultimate definition of building something from nothing.
Oh, exactly.
Because when you are constrained by a total lack of resources, you have to completely shift your paradigm
Yep.
of what is even, possible. You have to stop looking for external solutions and just start mining your immediate environment.
Yeah, and that gritty, just relentless mindset is really the beating heart of our deep dive today.
Mm.
So we are unpacking a genuinely fascinating book today. It's called The Black Contractor's Guide by Desmond Collins.
Right. And Collins, he's a seasoned builder who runs a highly successful construction firm out in California.
Yeah, but his path to that success was, well, it was anything but a traditional MBA track, right? Like, he went from having a prison record and absolutely zero construction skills in his 20s to, running his own empire.
Which is exactly what makes his perspective so valuable, I think, to anyone trying to build something today. Because this isn't, theoretical business school advice that was drafted up in some pristine
Oh,
boardroom.
not at all.
It's a hard knocks, really boots on the ground manual.
Mhm.
And the mission of our deep dive today is twofold, really. First, we want to uncover this largely hidden history of black master builders who literally engineered the physical world we live in, and they did it under unimaginable constraints.
Yeah.
And second, we're going to extract Collins' incredibly practical business blueprint. So strategies that you can apply to your own entrepreneurial journey right now.
So whether you are out there swinging a hammer or sitting in a corporate office or, maybe you are just intensely curious about the intersection of history and business, this whole exploration is really about the mindset required to just defy gravity.
Yeah, perfectly said.
Because to really grasp the weight of Collins' modern business advice, we first have to examine the historical foundation that he stands on. We are talking about individuals who built monumental bridges while society legally considered them property.
Yeah, and a perfect place to anchor that history is with Horace King.
Oh, his story is
It
incredible.
really is. So he was born into slavery in South Carolina in 1807, yet he somehow became one of the most respected master bridge builders in the entire American South.
Which is just wild to think about.
Right. And he utilized an innovation called the town lattice truss, designed to span these incredibly wide, rushing rivers that other engineers just thought were, completely unbridgeable.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there for a second because when I hear the word lattice, I instantly think of, those flimsy wooden garden fences you buy at a hardware store.
Oh, sure, yeah, the decorative stuff.
Exactly. So how in the world does a wooden lattice hold up a massive infrastructure project over a rushing river?
Well, it sounds counterintuitive, I know, but it's actually a brilliant piece of physics. So the town lattice worked by crisscrossing diagonal wooden beams and then pinning them together with wooden pegs, so it looked like a...
Like a giant accordion.
Yeah, exactly, a giant tightly woven accordion. And instead of relying on a few massive, impossible-to-find solid timber logs to support the entire weight of the bridge, the lattice actually distributed that heavy load evenly across the whole interconnected structure.
Ah, okay.
So it turned hundreds of smaller manageable planks into a unified, incredibly rigid web.
So he takes this really complex physical design, scales it up, and just completely dominates the infrastructure of the South.
Exactly.
But here is the detail from the source material that absolutely stopped me in my tracks. King's work was so flawless that his enslaver, who essentially operated as like the face of the construction company, was offering 5-year warranties on King's bridges.
In the 1830s.
In the 1830s. I mean, let's unpack this for a second. Offering a 5-year warranty on a massive infrastructure project back then while legally considered property is mind-blowing.
It really is.
It's like a modern tech company guaranteeing a smartphone will never break for a decade, but with, infinitely higher stakes. We are talking about a time when a bad storm could wipe out an entire town.
Right.
If that bridge fails, the financial ruin for the enslaver is huge, but the physical danger to King, who is legally property, remember, is terrifying.
Yeah, it is a staggering level of confidence in one's own engineering mastery. And what's fascinating here, what's crucial to understand, is that King wasn't just a laborer carrying out orders.
Right, he was the brain behind it.
He was the primary architect and designer. He didn't just build, he designed. He mastered his craft so thoroughly that even those who enslaved him had to completely rely on his engineering genius.
Wow.
And that leverage is ultimately how he bought his own freedom in 1846. He took on a massive project under an impossibly tight deadline. He basically had to salvage a ruined bridge that had washed onto a sandbar, disassemble it piece by piece, and rebuild it in a matter of months.
That is insane.
And that speed and precision bought his liberty. And incredibly, after the Civil War, he used his standing in the community to become a politician in the Alabama House of Representatives.
It is a trajectory that almost sounds like fiction, and it really echoes that philosophy of Booker T. Washington that we mentioned at the start of the deep dive.
Yeah.
Washington had this famous mantra about casting down your buckets where you are. He believed that instead of waiting for political goodwill to just hand over equality, the undeniable path to power was through mastering a skilled trade and owning land.
Yeah, you make yourself economically indispensable first. Washington understood that economic leverage forces systemic change. But, as we move into the 20th century, the challenge for black builders shifted a bit.
How so?
Well, it wasn't just about individual exceptionalism anymore. The next hurdle was scaling those operations. How do you take the genius of a single Horace King and turn it into collective generational power that can shatter systemic barriers on a national level?
And that brings us to Frederick Messiah, who is just such a compelling figure in this history. He arrives in the U.S. from Barbados in 1909 as an immigrant. He works these grueling labor jobs during the day and studies architecture and engineering at night.
Classic hustle.
Right. And by the 1920s, he doesn't just have his own business. He is literally pioneering the use of reinforced concrete in the United States.
Yeah, and we really need to look at why reinforced concrete was such a revolutionary mechanism at the time.
Please do, because I am not an engineer.
Well, before Messiah, people understood concrete was great at handling compression, meaning you can push down on it with massive weight. But concrete is terrible at handling tension. So if it bends or shifts due to temperature changes, it just cracks and crumbles.
Okay, that makes sense.
So Messiah championed the technique of embedding high-tensile steel bars inside the concrete.
Rebar.
Exactly, rebar. The steel handles the pulling and bending, while the concrete handles the crushing weight. And he mastered this physics before widespread municipal building codes even existed for it.
Which allowed him to build the first elliptical concrete dome in the United States for a church in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And he innovated his way into securing these massive government contracts, completely bypassing the severe racism of the trade unions that actively tried to lock him out. He simply offered a superior, futuristic product that the government just couldn't refuse.
Messiah proved you could innovate your way to the top. But the subsequent challenge for black builders was proving you could pass that institutional knowledge down without it being erased. And that is the hurdle the McKissick family cleared so spectacularly. They are actually the oldest minority and women-owned design and construction firm in the country today.
And their origin story is, honestly, it's almost biblical. It traces back to an enslaved Ashanti man named Moses. According to their family history, Moses earned his freedom by hand-making 365,000 bricks for a plantation mansion in Tennessee.
Which is just... I mean, when you actually think about the mechanics of making a single brick by hand in the 1800s, you're digging the clay, molding it, firing it in a kiln day in and day out. The sheer physical toll of 365,000 bricks is staggering.
It really is. But he didn't just pass down the bricks to his kids, he passed down the blueprint. He taught his sons the trade, and his grandsons eventually took that raw physical legacy and formalized it.
Right.
They became the first licensed black architects in the American South and officially founded McKissick & McKissick in 1905. And today, the descendants of Moses' twin sisters, Cheryl and Daryl McKissick, are running multi-billion-dollar empires. We are talking about managing the $6 billion JFK Terminal 1 project, the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial in D.C., major hospital modernizations all across the country.
Incredible.
They literally scaled from 365,000 handmade bricks in the mud to multi-billion-dollar skyline infrastructure.
It perfectly illustrates how mastery compounds over generations.
Yeah.
However, if we're talking about scaling, perhaps the most dramatic historical example of scaling logistical excellence under absolute duress is the story of the 95th Engineer Battalion during World War II.
Oh my gosh. I have to admit, I had never heard of this until diving into the sources, and it is a movie waiting to happen.
Absolutely.
So set the stage. After Pearl Harbor, the U.S. military panicked. They needed a secure overland highway connecting the continental United States up through Canada to Alaska to defend against potential Japanese attacks from the Pacific.
Right, the Alaska Highway.
Exactly. So they dispatched the 95th Engineer Battalion, which was a segregated unit of black soldiers, deep into the Canadian wilderness to carve out this massive road.
And the physical reality of that environment is just beyond brutal. They weren't just clearing trees, they were actively battling the permafrost.
Ugh.
These soldiers were sleeping in thin canvas tents in negative 60-degree weather. They were working in mosquito-infested swamps where heavy machinery would just instantly sink into the mud.
Oh.
And to make it worse, because of rampant discrimination within the military brass, they were frequently given hand-me-down broken equipment, while the newer machinery was funneled to white regiments.
See, here's where it gets really interesting to me. I'm trying to visualize this. You are isolated in a frozen swamp, hidden from the press, heavily segregated, and you are literally given the military's garbage to work with.
Yeah.
How does a team with the deck entirely stacked against them finish a 1,600-mile road, which is a Panama Canal-level engineering feat, a full year ahead of schedule?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it proves that excellence cannot be hidden forever, right? Their success wasn't just physical endurance. It was an unparalleled mastery of logistics and brilliant, on-the-fly engineering under pressure.
What kind of engineering?
Well, when the bulldozers sank in the swamps, they figured out how to build what are called corduroy roads. They'd fell thousands of trees and lay them side by side over the mud to create this floating wooden foundation for the trucks.
That is so smart.
It was sheer human force compensating for machine deficits. At one point, they placed a bet with a rival unit that they could bridge a violently rushing river in 4 days.
And they did it.
They executed it in 3.
It's just an incredible testament to team culture. You can hide a group of people from the press, but you cannot hide that level of structural excellence.
Exactly. But, it's almost jarring to transition from the sheer survival of building under Jim Crow or in the frozen Canadian wilderness to the day-to-day operations of a modern business today.
It is a bit of a leap, yeah.
But Desmond Collins's point in his book isn't to directly equate the two. It's to draw on that inherited resilience. He realized that if his predecessors could engineer miracles without basic human rights, he had absolutely no excuse to fail at estimating or bookkeeping in the 21st century.
And that takes us right into Collins' Hard Knocks business blueprint. He takes that historical grit and applies it to the brutal, margin-thin world of modern contracting.
Yes, the survival mechanics.
Right. And one of his absolute non-negotiable rules is about protecting your time. He strongly advises contractors to never, ever give free estimates.
Never.
Wait, let me push back on that for a second on behalf of the listener, because isn't giving free estimates the standard accepted way to win clients in almost any service industry? If you try to charge a homeowner just to look at a kitchen remodel, won't you instantly lose that business to the guy down the street who is willing to hand over a quote for free?
It is the single most common fear for new business owners. You feel like you have to, beg for the work. But Collins points out the trap here. Free estimates are a massive drain on your most limited resource, which is your time.
Okay, that's fair.
He warns against tire kickers. These are people who have no intention of hiring you. They just want you to come out, do the complex math, and hand them a free, detailed material list so they can go to the hardware store and do it themselves.
Ah, right, I see. Because the source material talks about how long it takes to do an accurate material takeoff.
Yes.
And for anyone unfamiliar with that term, a takeoff is essentially dissecting a blueprint to count every single nail, linear foot of baseboard, and bag of cement needed before a hammer is ever swung.
It is tedious work.
It takes days of intellectual labor. And I remember Collins saying, you wouldn't ask a brain surgeon for a free sample surgery to see if you like their scalpel work. Why should a master builder hand over days of complex logistical math for free? Yeah. Exactly. This raises an important question about how we value our own expertise. When you charge a consultation fee, you immediately elevate yourself from a disposable handyman to a trusted professional.
Right.
When the client pays that fee, you don't just give them a single price. You give them 3 workable solutions for their space. And if they sign the contract, you roll that initial fee into the total project cost. You weed out the time wasters and ensure your intellectual property is valued.
And protecting your profit margins doesn't stop at the consultation either.
Mm.
Collins is militant about the mathematics of pricing. He mandates a strict 15% markup on all materials.
Minimum.
Minimum, yeah. And if the client balks at that, they just don't understand the hidden mechanisms of construction. You aren't just paying for the drywall, you are paying for the unseen risks behind it.
Oh, the things you find behind walls.
Right. If you open up a wall and find a plumbing nightmare or black mold and you've price matched the cheapest, most desperate contractor in town, your business will go under trying to fix it out of pocket. And speaking of going under, Collins learned the importance of understanding the mechanisms of finance the absolute hardest way possible. He shares a deeply painful personal anecdote about state workers' compensation insurance.
Oh man, the $20,000 lesson. I read this part and my jaw physically dropped.
It's a terrifying reality for many new entrepreneurs. So when Collins started out, he opted into the state workers' comp program. He was dutifully making his monthly reports, paying what he thought were his required premiums, and he assumed his books were perfectly clean.
Right.
But what he didn't understand is the mechanism of how workers' comp audits actually function.
Because it's not a flat monthly subscription fee like Netflix.
No, definitely not.
Workers' comp is based on a percentage of your total payroll, and that percentage changes wildly depending on the danger of the job. So the gross pay rate for an office assistant might be 1%, but the gross pay rate for a carpenter swinging power tools on a roof was 26%.
Meaning for every $100 he paid a skilled worker on his site, he quietly owed $26 to the workers' comp fund.
Ouch.
And the system relies on end-of-year payroll audits to reconcile the math. So 12 months later, Collins gets hit with a surprise bill for $20,000 in unpaid premiums.
That is soul crushing.
For a new business operating on razor-thin margins, a $20,000 surprise is the kind of thing that instantly bankrupts people.
It's devastating. And it highlights why Collins is so adamant about keeping low-tech but highly disciplined accounting systems.
Yeah.
You don't need a fancy corporate setup to start, but you must have discipline.
Yes.
He had to figure out a way to stop the bleeding, so he went completely old school with something he calls the envelope method.
It is brilliant in its simplicity. He literally bought a box of physical envelopes and labeled them for specific recurring expenses. So fuel, materials, office supplies.
Right.
And the rule was absolute. The second he made a purchase, the physical receipt went directly into the corresponding envelope in his truck.
No waiting until the end of the month. No trying to remember what a faded receipt from Home Depot was for. Immediate physical categorization. It completely removes the friction from bookkeeping.
It really does.
And he paired that administrative defense with a really aggressive, scrappy offense. Before he had a massive marketing budget, he hustled on Craigslist.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't just throw up a generic text post. He posted high-quality before and after photos, included verifiable client testimonials, and made it a rule to respond to inquiries within minutes. He treated a free internet classified board with the professionalism of a high-end ad agency.
So you stabilize your operation, you protect your time with consultation fees, you charge your worth, and you lock down your receipts. But surviving your present reality isn't enough.
No.
Collins points out that companies that fail to anticipate the future, even massive giants like Sears, will eventually die. The modern builder has to aggressively future-proof their foundation.
And the most immediate, earth-shattering technological shift we are dealing with right now is artificial intelligence. In a purely physical, hands-on industry like construction, AI might seem totally disconnected.
You'd think so.
But Collins views tools like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot as the great equalizer for the small business owner.
Absolutely.
And I was trying to figure out how AI actually helps a guy framing a house, but the source material explains it so well. So what does this all mean? Basically, AI is like having a free six-figure executive assistant on retainer 24/7.
That's a great way to put it.
Using AI for contracting is basically like handing a brilliant, mathematically gifted intern a massive stack of your past successful bids and saying, find the hidden pattern in how we price drywall and labor and draft a brand new bid for this new blueprint.
Exactly.
It does the complex pattern recognition in seconds, and you just step in to make the final executive decision. It allows a one-person shop to operate with the administrative processing power of a massive corporate firm.
It is a profound shift. What's fascinating here is that embracing AI or 3D printing today is the exact modern equivalent of Frederick Messiah adopting reinforced concrete in the 1920s.
Got on.
It's about spotting the tool that will define the next century and mastering its mechanisms first. But the innovation isn't just limited to software. We are seeing physical technology fundamentally change how humans interact with a job site.
Drones are a perfect example of that. We briefly touched on surveying earlier. Historically, a surveyor would spend days walking a massive plot of land with poles to figure out the topography. Now, a contractor can fly a drone over a site, and in minutes, the software calculates the cut and fill volumes.
And for context, cut and fill is the incredibly complex math of calculating exactly how much dirt you need to dig out, which is the cut, and how much dirt you need to bring in the fill to make a job site perfectly level.
Right.
A drone maps that topography from the air, saving thousands of dollars in labor and potential math errors before the earth movers even arrive.
And then you have the absolute frontier of 3D construction printing. This sounds like science fiction, but it is happening right now.
Oh yeah, I've seen videos.
We are talking about massive gantry-style robotic extruders that physically pour specialized concrete mixtures, layer by layer, following a digital blueprint to build the walls of a house.
It's wild.
It drastically reduces labor costs, cuts construction time to a fraction, and because the machine only deposits material exactly where it is mathematically required, it virtually eliminates material waste.
Which perfectly aligns with the industry's massive pivot toward green building and modular construction.
Yeah.
Collins is heavily pushing contractors to adopt off-site modular assembly.
How does that work?
Well, instead of stick framing a house out in the rain, entire rooms are precision built in a climate-controlled factory setting, and then they're snapped together on-site almost like Lego blocks. It entirely cuts out weather delays.
He also advocates for net zero energy building, right? Structures that generate as much energy as they consume. And he is really pragmatic about it. Yes, stopping the endless flow of construction waste to our landfills is an ethical imperative for the environment, but it is also an incredibly lucrative, rapidly growing market that's heavily subsidized by government contracts. If you aren't building green, you are leaving millions of dollars on the table.
It truly is the ultimate synthesis of Collins' philosophy. You take the inherited grit and craftsmanship of the historical masters, you apply the strict, unyielding financial discipline required to survive today's margins, and you actively master the technologies that will define tomorrow.
Which brings our entire exploration into a clear, unified focus, I think. The Black Contractor's Guide proves that construction has never just been about erecting buildings.
No.
It is about engineering legacies. It is about taking the resources you have, even if it is literally just the dirt beneath your feet, overcoming the barriers in your way, and having the audacity to demand what your expertise is truly worth.
Because whether you are an entrepreneur trying to get a tech startup off the ground, or a freelance creative, or maybe a corporate manager looking to scale your team, the mechanics of success are universal.
Completely.
You must have a blueprint. You must fiercely protect your time and intellectual value. And you have to constantly innovate your processes, or you risk becoming obsolete in a changing landscape.
We just spent this deep dive analyzing historical figures who engineered literal empires, built world-class universities, and designed monumental bridges while fighting active subjugation and a lack of basic human rights. They possessed nothing, so they made their own bricks.
Right.
So looking at your own life, your own career today, surrounded by our modern, resource-rich environment, what internal landfills, what persistent self-doubt, or obsolete daily habits are you allowing to hold back your own great build?
It is a heavy question, but it is one that demands an honest answer if you truly want to unlock your own potential.
Take that question with you, keep building your future, and thank you for joining us on this deep dive.